Welcome to the We Watch This Movie podcast, the show where we sit down and dissect the latest and greatest in film. I'm not Dan Allen Movies, I'm Jackson, aka at Marshall on Film, and joining me here today is the Nolan fanboy, Nolan lover, Nolan connoisseur. I've said the name 3 times, so you're not hearing it again. Ladies and gentlemen, my podcast co-host, Dan, aka at Dan Allen Movies. How you doing?
Fantastic, Jackson. Never been better.
Oh, he got me! 26 episodes in, and he's finally done it. Listen to that clap.
How did it feel?
Here comes the audience applause cue. They love me. They really love me.
How did it feel to open the show?
I must say, mate,
I'm in.
Quivering in my boots. I feel like you've left me out here to dry. But 26 episodes in, I couldn't be happier. It's all about new experiences and going into new frontiers. You know, like
What's
space.
that shirt you've got on?
Oh, well, for our listeners, I'm so sorry, but this isn't a video cast. I'm actually wearing a Lost Highway shirt. That is a David Lynch movie from the late 90s, and you will hear David Lynch's name mentioned again in this podcast.
I never heard of it. Hey, you know what? We've got an interview today with Adam Randall. He is the director of I See You, the film that we're covering today. We asked him a very important question. You need to stick around for this one question we asked him. Nolan or Lynch?
Oh, that cat is out of the bag. We're only a couple minutes in and you're already spoiling the entire episode. It's not like you to do this.
Nolan or Lynch, which way will he go? Find out later in the episode.
Well, our faithful listeners, Dan has already burst the bubble. Today, we are going to be tackling a 2019 release, a mystery horror thriller film. Call it whatever you want. It's dark, it's gritty. It is I See You, which is available right now on your favorite streaming platform. For us here in Australia, it's available on Netflix. And if you can't get in your country, well, we've got a great point to mention a little bit later on. While we have a discussion here about I See You, yes, as Dan mentioned, we're going to be talking to the director, Adam Randall. And that was a very fascinating chat. Dan, just a little bit earlier there, I mentioned how, you know, a new frontier, space is the new frontier. What's so new about space and about sci-fi this week in the movie news?
Whoa, did you hear about Tom Cruise's $200 million space movie?
No. $200 million space movie. Please, lead on us.
I heard there's reports that he is actually going to be going into space for some of these scenes.
No.
Dead set.
You are
Dead
kidding.
Set. I'm not kidding. I can't wait. This guy's a freak. He's unreal.
I saw this awesome Instagram post where it was, you know, actors and their stunt doubles, and it had about 5 different images. We saw some of the Marvel Avengers like Scarlett Johansson and Chris Hemsworth, and then the 5th and final image was just a picture of Tom Cruise.
The guy's a freak. You can love him, you can hate him as a person. As an actor, as an entertainer, he is A-list, and he has been. I just watched Rain Man.
Wow.
This is going back 20, 25 years.
30 years.
And it's still 30. It holds up. It holds up. This guy can act. So whether he's taking on these roles like Mission Impossible, all these action roles recently in the last 10 years or so.
10 years? The guy's been doing action movies for what, 25?
I understand. Yeah, I understand, but more so action rather than drama. I think it's because he knows the body will wind down eventually and he might not be able to do these stunts that he's doing, so he's getting it out of the way now. Before he is, although I think he's nearly 60.
He's nearly 60, mate. His body's not winding down. This guy doesn't look. He doesn't look like he's aged today since about 1986.
He gets better with age.
Seriously,
Yeah.
Put Tom Cruise today in 2020 next to him in Top Gun. Like, it's night and day. I shouldn't say night and day. It's exactly the same.
He was in that, wasn't he?
Well, compare how he
looks
looks now to then, and then how Val Kilmer looks now to then. It's absolute insanity.
Oh, yeah, I know. So he's shutting out streamers in favor of theatrical release for this film, which is no surprise to me at all. So, yeah, I can't wait for it. Whatever it is, I don't think there's any more details on it, but that's enough. Tom Cruise in space, sign me up. I'm there day one.
That's it. Well, we know 2 people who'll be there then with Choc Top and popcorn in hand, and that is your amazing podcast co-hosts. Dan, what else is new in the world of movies this week?
Zack Snyder has been in the news, as we know, a lot for that Justice League film.
Oh my God! Here we go.
Here we go. Release the cut. He's done it.
Bring out the DC fanboys.
Woo! Now he says this is very controversial. He said he won't be using any of Joss Whedon's Justice League footage. He would destroy the movie before using a single frame he didn't photograph. Whew, harsh words.
Didn't Joss Whedon reshoot 70% of it?
A lot, yeah. And,
how's this going to work?
No one has nice things to say about Whedon. I don't know what happened there. There's all sorts of allegations. I haven't looked into it to the degree of some people, but I know that he's in some hot water right now. He hasn't done much lately, and they don't have many nice things to say, do they?
No, most definitely not. Look, whatever we get there in that Justice League Ultimate Cut, Final Cut, Recut, Snyder Cut, for me, it's going to be a fresh movie regardless. So just more fuel to the fire.
Can't believe you haven't seen it. It's so funny, but it's probably good because it wasn't good. So you're not missing anything. It's actually called Zack Snyder's Justice League is the official name now. 2021.
Gosh, that's massive. Who would have thought that the director of 300 would be putting out a Justice League movie? Sorry, a re-release of Justice League nearly 20 years on.
It is insane. I want another Man of Steel. Man of Steel 2. Who's with me, guys?
God, who are you? That is
Come
no way.
on.
Talk about a misfire.
You didn't like it?
No. Give me more Henry Cavill, except, the sequels we got with him have been terrible.
Next week we're doing Man of Steel because we need to fight about this. We need to get boiled up like we did in Inception, even though we both gave it a 9, funnily enough. But, yeah. So that was that. But a big story, Jackson. Universal and AMC theaters have been going back and forth. AMC theaters in America, the big chain.
Okay.
And Universal, of course, Fast and the Furious, Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, big franchises. They had a 90-day deal where after 90 days in the theaters, they're allowed to bring it out in VOD. Okay? Now they're changing that to 17 days. So 17 days after its theatrical release, it will come to VOD. It'll come to Google Play and your Apple stores. That is a very short window. Very interested to see how that pans out.
For sure. I guess we have already seen something similar pan out where The Invisible Man earlier this year was released to VOD as it came out in many areas across the globe from Universal just as the pandemic kicked off. So it'll be, you said the word, mate. Interesting. I thought Universal were pulling their movies from AMC or from another chain over in the States.
They were, but they've come together now and made this deal. I'm sure AMC aren't very that happy about it, but I don't know.
No.
All I know is Universal's releases in COVID have been really, really strong in terms of financial from VOD. So, this is why we're seeing this. And then we have people like a Nolan or a Tom Cruise recently. They want to stay in the theaters. That's great. I want the theatrical release.
We all want that theatrical experience.
We don't want to watch it on our phones. Play the queue.
Now, if you're playing the movie on a telephone, you will never in a trillion years experience the film. You'll think you have experienced it, but you'll be cheated. It's such a sadness that you think you've seen a film on your fucking telephone. Get real.
David Lynch.
Another nod, mate. Perfect.
That's one that I'm interested to see how it'll pan out. But one thing, Jackson, the Emmy Awards.
Oh,
the Emmy nominations came out. Now,
wow.
Name an actor, an Australian actor. He might have been in a film called Logan or The Prestige. Just name him and tell me what he was nominated for.
An Australian actor. Was it Ben Mendelsohn?
I thought you were going to say Joel Edgerton.
Oh, Joel Edgerton, of course. He hasn't had enough shout-outs on this podcast.
This is the greatest show. Hugh Jackman.
Nominated
for Bad Education.
Oh, that was quite a film. Didn't we cover that one?
We sure did. Episode... I don't know the number. I hope you do.
No, but we will.
He's scrolling.
Oh, Dan, Bad Education. That was episode 14.
14. There you go. So we wish him all the best. I hope he wins. I think he's the best performance out of those 4 or 5 nominees. So
Yeah, I
good
believe.
luck over
I believe
there.
Bad Education is up for best TV movie as well. It's got some strong competition. It's that, or maybe El Camino, which for you Breaking Bad fans out there was a very cool bit of nostalgia.
Well, I mentioned to you that Hugh Jackman's going for the EGOT. If you don't know what the EGOT is, it's
Here
the
we
Emmy.
go.
It's the Emmy. It's the Oscar. It's the Grammy, and it's the Tony.
It's definitely not
Okay.
the Grammy.
Yes, it is.
Is it not the Golden Globes?
No.
Wow, that's crazy.
He has. I thought he had an Oscar, but he doesn't. So he's missing the Oscar. He's got the other 3. Can he do it with Bad Education? Probably not now that we saw Delroy Lindo.
Oh, of course.
He'll probably get wiped out from him at the moment, or probably many others. Will he be nominated? I don't know. We'll find out.
He could be up for it given the year that we've had. You're 100%. You know
I
what,
think
Dan?
he
He might be the
deserves it.
greatest showman, but is he the greatest actor?
Well, he's going to get the EGOT either way, because they're going to give him an honorary award when he's 80 years old, and he's got this massive.
Come on, mate.
catalogue
They
of
don't
work.
hand him out like cereal boxes. You got to earn that thing. You got to
don't
be.
think he's
You got to be
earned
at
it?
that. You got to be at that same league as a Spike Lee or maybe even a David Lynch.
Okay, so you're telling me if Hugh Jackman retired tomorrow, he hasn't done enough, in your opinion, to get that Oscar on an honorary award?
Whoa, Dan Allen movies. I know you like to call it black and white. You call it as you see it. I didn't say he hasn't done enough to earn it. I just said it's not easy to get.
So you think he has done enough to earn it? Don't you dare sit on the fence.
He's had a, and here it is, fantastic career. I'd love to see him win a competitive Oscar. Will he earn one?
Yeah.
Time will tell. Will we ever get the Oscars again? Certainly not here in Melbourne. We're still in stage 3 restrictions at the time of recording.
Next story.
Do we have another story? Or are
No, we
gonna-
don't. Take it away. Take it away, bro.
Go to the living room. What is
So,
going on?
Jackson, I think, is that it for the news, or is there one more story?
There is one more story, Dan. We want to touch on the recent passing of 2 very influential American film directors that has happened in the last several weeks. And we don't like to get too down and sour here at the We Watch This Movie podcast. We want to keep things energetic and upbeat. We know this is a very trying time for everyone. But here at the show, we want to highlight these 2 directors' careers, and that's Wes Craven and Joel Schumacher. Listeners, stick around to the end of the episode. Dan Allen Movies, myself, Marshall on Film, we're going to be doing another movie challenge, and we're going to be picking a movie from each of these directors' back catalogues. We're going to watch them. We're going to cover them next week. So we just want to say Vale to Wes Craven, Vale to Joel Schumacher. You've had an amazing, each of you had amazing careers. There's the audience applause again. Thank you very much. And with that, on to the show.
I'm sorry.
911 got a call from someone claiming to have seen our kidnapper.
You don't get to act like nothing happened.
Sorry.
You have any idea what's coming for you?
I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry.
When a 12-year-old boy goes missing, lead investigator Greg Harper struggles to balance the pressure of the investigation and troubles with his wife, Jackie. Facing a recent affair, great strain is put on the family that slowly gnaws away at Jackie's grip on reality. But after a malicious presence manifests itself in their home and puts their son, Connor, in mortal danger, the cold, hard truth about evil in the Harper household is finally uncovered. Dan, I see you. Why did you recommend we watch this movie here for the We Watch This Movie podcast?
I was on Netflix, as we all do, every now and again, and scrolling through and trying to find a film for me and my girlfriend, Shani, okay?
Oh, shout out Shani. She makes awesome baked goods.
So we were looking for a film that we'd both like, and we stumbled upon I See You, and I thought, okay, let's give this a go. Okay, 5 minutes in, I thought, I'm going to turn this off. I'm not into this. No, seriously, I turned it off. I said, I don't want this sort of horror right now. I came back a few days later and I said, okay, we're going to give this a real go now. I was in a bad mood.
A worse mood than Midsommar?
No, not that bad. So then we got through 25 minutes in. I'm thinking, oh, am I going to turn it off again here? Because it's still showing a lot of those horror tropes. But then, Jackson, the film turns on its head. 35 minutes in, it becomes a film I love to watch. These sort of films really get me hooked and in. And ever since, I've been recommending this film to everyone around. Even though it did come out last year, I didn't get a theatrical release. I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was very dark, very gritty, and the concept of phrogging. I don't want to spoil too much. We go into spoilers later. The concept of phrogging I was new to, and it was something fresh. You know, we want to see fresh things in films, and this is something I hadn't seen explored before. Even though it wasn't a perfect film, don't get me wrong, the twists and turns, I love a good twist in a film. I know a lot of our listeners do too, and this hits. So, I think it's a really good sort of Friday night Netflix film.
Dan, I couldn't have said it better myself. You said 5 minutes in. I think it was only a couple minutes in that I was sending you messages asking why we were reviewing this movie. I was waiting for the Blumhouse Productions logo to show up at the beginning, thinking, oh my gosh, what kind of supernatural horror are we getting here? It's all going to be the one location. What kind of budget are we looking at? I'm just not sure. It was very testing for that first half an hour, probably up until the 40-minute mark. And you said it, mate. The entire movie gets flipped on its head, and it goes from very rote, very run-of-the-mill mechanical work to this bizarre puzzle that's gripping, and you're not sure who to trust. You're not quite sure who the protagonist is. The narrative focus just continues to shift, and the perspective is you hardly get to sit still. It's at times skin-crawling and uncomfortable. It's going to be a tough movie to recommend for everyone, because if you're watching this, for example, like you did with your girlfriend, she might not be as accepting of some of these really cold and harsh themes. Luckily, us here at the We Watch This Movie podcast, we love getting depraved, so give us something to really sink our teeth into.
We're going to get that on a shirt one day. We need that on a shirt.
It's coming, don't you worry,
I love
friends.
getting depraved.
We're working on a merchandise store. We're going to have We Love Getting Depraved on mugs just for all of you.
In Nolan We Trust. Is that a shirt?
In Nolan We Trust. Okay, mate, you can stop derailing the segment now. Thank you very much. I found the acting to be quite solid across the board. To see Helen Hunt in a film in 2020 is pretty wild.
Yeah.
But her and the rest of the cast did some solid stuff. A lot of this movie is anchoring on these subtle performances where it's quite often about these small nuances and details, and this would really hold up well on a rewatch too. Because the plot is full of so many twists and turns, we don't want to go into it too much, but once you go through and experience it, you get to the end, you have your 10 or 6 cold showers just to come down from it, you kind of want to go back and think, was this really here in the beginning? What's there to work out? And this was a good movie. This was a real buried gem on VOD. If we're going to get more quality stuff released on platforms like Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, can it be more of this and less of the Blumhouse schlock, please?
Yeah, I really enjoyed our chat with Adam. It was funny that he mentioned that Helen Hunt had never been in a horror before, so she had a trepidation of working on this. And I could see that in her performance, although, look, they had 20 days to shoot. It was a strict budget. I feel like some of her scenes she didn't nail. Maybe I'm being harsh. I thought she was the weakest, nearly the weakest of the film.
Okay.
I thought the standouts were Judah Lewis, Owen Teague as Alec, Greg Harper, what was his name? John Tenney?
Yeah, John Tenney. He was
great.
married to Terry Thatcher.
Oh, okay. So all the even though the story centers around her, I wasn't all that impressed with her performance. If I have to be completely honest, if there was one big criticism of the film, and at first, another criticism of mine was the slow build-up at the start.
Yes.
But, after you realise what happens, it sort of warrants that. So I wouldn't say it's a criticism. Maybe we could have got there quicker, or, didn't have to be that tropey. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
you don't want something so cliche written that it's boring and dull and plotting. You'll hear in the interview that, as Adam mentioned, it was kind of in the script and that was his intention, but that's very testing to audiences. And when we've got such low attention span and you're going to be watching this at home, which is very different to a theatrical experience, you don't want something that's going to have you reaching for the phone every couple minutes. You want something that's going to hook you in and grab you and keep you glued to your home theater or your television set. Dan, you said it. Is this a perfect film? No, but you could do a heck of a lot worse right now, and it has enough good elements to outweigh, I wouldn't say bad, but some of the weaker ones. I love that you mentioned here Helen Hunt is kind of like the heart of the movie or the focus. She isn't. And the movie just kind of plays fast and loose with who is. It works in its favor.
Oh, so you actually disagree with that?
Yeah, I disagree with that. Maybe,
Okay.
Look, I probably would agree that she's the heart, even though the story kind of kicks off with her having made a very terrible, very poor decision. It may not have necessarily come from too bad a place. And despite her and her family living in a lovely looking home, we quickly learn that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And I think part of that theme that leads into and bleeds into the frogging that we see going on, very reminiscent to Parasite that also came out last year. And
We
here's
have
Dan's
seen
face
this concept.
as he just makes the connection.
We have seen that concept explored once before.
That's
there you
right.
go.
Ladies
Wow.
and gentlemen, the penny has dropped.
We've just spoiled it, so why don't we get into our spoiler talk with Adam, and then we'll come back and discuss a bit more, Jackson. How does that sound?
Yeah, sure. I'm sure our listeners would love to hear what he has to think. So stick around because we're going to have even more awesome conversation covering I See You just after this.
Just say I'm excited for Night Teeth. I did see a little bit about that and the recent casting. How far are you through that?
In a way, we were lucky. We shot about 80% of the film in New Orleans, and we flew back to LA to do the last couple of weeks, and that's when everyone locked down. So in that way, we managed to get all of the big action, all of the stuff with like hundreds of backgrounds. The problem is that the stuff in LA, it's like the basic premise is it's moving from different, one night moving across LA, a driver and two kind of strange passengers. So it's not an easy one to get up and running in COVID era. It's not like going to shoot in a warehouse or something. It's literally shooting all over LA.
Was the budget for that one bigger than the previous titles, or how did it play about?
It's much bigger. Thankfully. I mean, yeah. I can only say that because it's my fourth film, and the first three were, all small and different. I mean, my very first film, Level Up, was 400,000.
Yeah.
iBoy was, $1.5 million, and then I See You ended up being about 3. It was about.
Wow.
I think it was 2.3 when we were shooting, and then it went up in post because various reasons, But so this one was definitely, I was able to have more toys, but you run into the same problems. It's never enough. It's still about compromising and figure things out, around the constraints.
That's all a part of the charm of filmmaking, isn't it? Just problem solving and trying to get everything to work.
Exactly. I love it. That's it's great fun doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you be doing if you weren't a filmmaker, you reckon?
Well, that's a good question, because I've had that thought, like loads of times in my career, because, it's hard and things fall apart and you don't have any money. I mean, I haven't had money, you earn a bit of money, and then especially on these low budget films, and then you're not working for a year, and so you start looking at like, well, what can I do in between? And you realize like you have no skills other than filmmaking. Your CV is an embarrassment. It's like my CV is a list of credits. You know what I mean? It's not like I worked. So, I don't like in terms of what could I do if I had to? I mean, I'd be really in trouble. I sometimes I look at my friends who had sort of went for easier careers, or perhaps like slightly more normal careers, and even though filmmaking has its huge highs, like they had mortgages and holidays and whatever while I was still pissing about making short films. So there's definitely something to be said for the easier life, I think.
So going back to I See You, which is what we both are reviewing and watched this week, I really, really enjoyed it. It came out of nowhere for me. I was just stumbled upon it on Netflix, heard a few things from friends. Tell us a little bit about how this came about and your experience working on the film.
Sure. Well, it was actually the sales company were based in the UK. So Matt Waldeck, the producer, had been working on it for I think like maybe even 5 years trying to get it made. And I think there was a director at one point and that didn't work out. So because it was a UK sales company, they knew me off the back of iBoy, and they said, look, we'd love you to have a look at the script. It's, we're talking to Helen Hunt, and it looks like we're all set to go and we want to shoot it in like 10 weeks. And I read the script and I was like, holy shit, the script is great. Like they're ready to go. This is like too good to be true. As I spoke to Matt the next day and I sort of told him my thoughts about it and my take on it. And he was really excited and sort of said, he wanted me on board on the call. And everything was great and moving forward very quickly. And then everything fell apart basically, and all the money fell out and it didn't work out. I got my visa. We were about to move to the US, with my family. We got, told the landlord that we were moving out, and I ended up sort of standing outside my house with my kids, with going,
kidding.
Shit, what do I?
That's insane.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, we genuinely were really fucked, for want of a better word.
Far out.
And we so we didn't know what to do. So we actually, this is digressing a bit, but we realized we better get an Airbnb, and then we thought, well, why get an Airbnb in England? We might as well go somewhere else, Yeah. So I read that Denmark was the happiest country in the planet. So we went off to Denmark.
Oh my
in
God.
a cabin in the woods, and just were like, what do we do? And then we, with my wife and I, we sort of said, well, let's go to LA anyway. We've got a little bit of savings. Let's go out there. Hopefully ICU will get built back up, and we just got to go for it. Take the gamble. And
Wow.
and then this was like the summer of 2017, and then I think it was October 2017. We went to AFM. I went with Matt. And we met a couple of financiers and we got some more interest, and slowly it built back up again. It was a slightly lower budget. I'd also met Helen, and we really agreed on the sort of the direction we wanted to take the script and her character. So
She was already in.
She was in depending on the director, basically. She liked the script, but she had sort of trepidations about it. I think she'd never done a horror film. She was really worried it was going to be because it could easily be a bit silly. Maybe some people think it is a bit silly, but certainly like the script that I read had a lot more sort of jump scares and bangs and and that sort of thing. And she was just wasn't sure. And one of my big things was I really wanted to take all that stuff out. I thought the script was already smarter than that. It didn't need that. So we really with Helen, and then Matt managed to pull some finance back in. And we built it back up again, and managed to get it made. It was, it was a low budget film. It was shot it in 20 days.
I still can't believe that 20 days.
That's insane. 20 days.
Yeah, that was, and it was originally 25 until I think a week before the shoot, when they had to cut 5 days out of the shoot because it had gone over budget. So, I mean, 25 is a struggle, So that was tough.
What did you learn from that 20-day shooting experience? Because that sounds tight. It must have been one wild ride. How did you kind of grow from that?
You sort of learn to, I guess, first of all, to prioritize and to try and figure out what you think will be on the edit room floor before you even shoot it, So really distilling what the film is. Also, what's important. And then I guess, how do you still, I really wanted to shoot this in a specific way. I had my shot list figured out, because it's so specific, the film, all the little clues and little details. So I wanted to just sort of figure out, well, how can I make sure that I can still get all of that despite it being 20 days, So just sort of, which is, it's useful coming from a kind of low budget indie background, because that's what you do. Everything is about hustling and cheating. My first film, we went and we shot in Chinatown in central London, so we had background of 5,000 people, even though you weren't legally allowed to do that. And we just sort of you figure things out. So So I guess that was it, really sort of figuring out how can I still get those shots and that mood, how can I still hopefully, because an audience doesn't care what the budget is, that, if it looks terrible or feels hokey, then they're not going to go, oh, well, good on them. They tried. You know what I mean? They're just going to be like, this is shite and turn it off. So
Yeah, for sure. They're certainly very unforgiving. Adam, I love that some of these subtle details that went into this film, and I like here that you mentioned that the script had even more of these jump scares, and you kind of wanted to tear them out. I see it as a very subversive mystery picture, especially for something to be released on a popular streaming service like Netflix, which it is here in Australia. I noticed that you had a bit of a history as a script reader. So what drew you to this project? What about it kind of had you on board thinking this is the movie I want to make?
How we would spoilers on this podcast, because it's hard to talk about the film without
go into spoilers.
Adam, you're the guest.
And in fact,
take it away.
Take it away, mate.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think we just got to say like we're going to just ruin the film now, yeah, because I think
please go for it.
Around things so much. So please, if you're listening, watch the film first, because yeah, I'm about to completely ruin it for you. So what? So I mean, I think what I loved about it is what I think most people love about it initially, which is the roller coaster ride and the twists and turns and how surprising it is. I always love a film that sort of you think is this supernatural and then it ends up not being, I always find that kind of satisfying. That it's sort of actually about the monsters in reality, rather than something sort of created. And it was slightly different, the shift that happens halfway through, but it was the same premise that you suddenly flip perspective and, you're back at the beginning of the story with completely new characters. And so, just that I thought was so interesting. And, and what it allowed was, is not just jumping back in time and not just jumping to different characters, both of which you kind of have seen before, but it actually allows you to change genre, to change style, like literally just, it's a different film, but it's the same story, and I thought that was hugely sort of satisfying. And then actually, all of the twists, that was all in the script I read, the reveal of, of who the abductor is, and the reveal of why at the very end, all of that. And I remember, that night lying in bed and just suddenly go, oh my God, that's why she said that. And that's why, it's like, it really sort of stuck with me. And I just thought it was really clever. And I thought that it really highlighted, I made judgments about the characters very quickly. I was on Team Greg, Jackie, she had an affair. I feel sorry for Greg and his son, and
that was
I made
me.
these very quick judgments. Yeah, I mean, as we all do with everything in life, and and what's so clever about the script is that it, you realize that you didn't know what you were seeing. It was just about perspective. So that was hugely exciting. And then as a filmmaker, I felt like the script was sort of, or it allowed it to be about filmmaking. It was about, what do you show the audience? It was about when do you cut a scene, especially as I started to break down how I was going to shoot it, it was like, I wanted to use the same, the same shot, but you just start it 8 seconds later in the second half. You pan to the right when you hadn't in the second, just little things that just change the perspective, like the whole stuff with Greg marching around the house with his gun. In the first half, he's your hero, and you're like, oh my God, it's scary. There's a guy in the house. It's a classic kind of thriller. And then you see it again, and you realize, oh, there's a dead girl on the floor, and he's a monster, and the guy that you're terrified of, that you think is like this, sort of slasher archetype, is actually in a way your protagonist, and he's the hero of the film. So it's just a really creative, fun, puzzle.
Yeah, albeit a very dark and twisted hero, right? It's kind of hard to root for anyone, but that's part of the charm.
It's a very dark film. I think that's partly, like you get away with that in independent, low-budget films. Like it's so, when you actually think about it, by the end, every character in it is either dead or in therapy for the rest of their life. Like even like Spinsky, like this cop is about to retire. And then like the guy who's been hunting for his whole life is actually his part, and then his boss, like everybody. But in a way, that's sort of what it's about, right? It's like about one man's horrendous warped desires and the ripple effect that has on so many people that you wouldn't even expect. Obviously the victims, but the family and the colleagues.
Yeah.
And,
Was this shot in chronological order? Obviously not.
definitely not.
Yeah.
And mainly because of cast schedule. Like Helen, like she came in for like 8 days or something like that. So it was like, you had to work it around that. And John
really?
Tenney was,
Wow.
yeah, and he was shooting True Detective at the same time. And HBO had a lot more sway than we did, So we'd be like,
You don't say.
we'd be saying, we'd be going, we need him this day, and they'd be like, yeah, shut the fuck up, we're gonna have him. So we had to work it around, that main, and also we shot all the house first. It's 15 days we shot the house, and then 5 days for the stuff around the house. So sometimes I'd shoot, Helen and John, and then I'd shoot Lee Bay, perspective of that, in the same day or the same, like the basement. So
that's what I was getting at. Yeah.
But often not, annoyingly, sometimes it would be 2 weeks apart. I'd shoot the scene and then I'd shoot, Owen's perspective or whatever, and it would be 2 weeks later. So
Right.
that was tricky, continuity wise.
Adam, I wanted to ask you a question here. So for an actor like John, so he's shooting True Detective and shooting your film, I See You at the same time. That's got to be a really dark shoot, and it seems like a lot of these tense, darker sequences would have been pretty full on set. How did you keep things lighthearted?
It's a good question. I mean, I think I just sort of naturally do, and I don't know if that's the best thing for the actors. You'd have to ask them. But I mean, as I sort of talking about at the beginning, like, because like my career it's been tough. It's been tough to make films. I think for most people it's tough to make films. Like, and there's a lot of sort of pain and suffering involved in it. So by the time I got to make my first film, I really feel like I have to enjoy it, and everybody has to enjoy it. We've got to do great work and be fulfilled, but also like it should be a joyous experience. Like there should be no room for, assholes or, pointless stress. Like ultimately, like, we're not saving the world, we're making a movie. So like, I want it to be, and I also see respect if an actor needs to go into their own space, and, but generally I want the set to be a place of fun, and calm. So, and someone like John, he just switches it on. There's some actors like that, like Maisie in iBoy. She would be chatting and laughing, and then I'd call action and she'd start crying. I mean, it was just like one of these amazing things. You just go, it's like magic, And there are other actors, like Owen a little bit more, because his character, he had to get into some very dark places. He might need, to be in a sort of his own space, or to be sort of, have a long conversation about something leading up to it. So, it all depends on how they work, really. But John's was really a very tricky performance. I think it was amazing, because you want to suspect everybody but him. But the fact that you don't suspect him, you worry is going to make you suspect him. If you know what I mean?
I did
absolutely. It's chilling.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then it's got to make sense when you watch it back. Like, oh, you see he's like this. And the way that he kind of sometimes just stares at someone a little bit too long, or the way he reacts to being told something by his lieutenant or by his partner. Like, when you watch it back, hopefully you're like, oh God, like that was kind of obvious, But at the same time, you want to totally believe it in the moment. So it's like, it's difficult for me, because I'm watching it both trying to be a first-time viewer and a second-time viewer. But it's incredibly challenging for him, because he's actually got to do it,
It'd be a fascinating rewatch. I might have to go back to get the different perspective. Switching back to iBoy, can you talk us through what it was like to work with Maisie and your experience on that? I'm guessing she's a sweetheart.
Yeah, she was. She was brilliant. I mean, it was just like one of those sort of joyful experiences. She's so talented. And so sort of fully involved, and it was really fun, because she and Bill Milner became really, really close. Actually moved in with each other as like best friends. I think they still might live together. they became like really, really close. And then all the kind of villains, the gang, the bad gang, they all became such good friends. So for them, it was like a really fun experience of hanging out with people their age, And she was just, she was just great, really. That was actually a long process, that one. I got sent the book, and it was 4 years later that we were actually shooting it. It's a really long struggle to get that made. And when we first approached Maisie, she couldn't do it because of Game of Thrones, but then it kind of fell apart and came back. And then eventually, it was about 3 weeks before we started, we went back to her, and she was clear, so she came on board, and I sort of can't imagine it now without her.
I want to get your take quickly on the Game of Thrones ending. What were your thoughts on the last season?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I was a little disappointed, I have to say. Like, I'm not going to say anything that 100 people haven't already said. It felt like, I don't know why they squeezed it into so few episodes. I think the idea of it and Daenerys turning, I think it was great. You know, it was really clever and could have been really satisfying. And there was some amazing, you know, episodes, and Miguel Sapochnik, who does the huge battle episode, you know, some incredible elements to it. You know, such great cast, but it just suddenly felt like, especially as I remember earlier seasons, thinking like, what? It's just taking so long. Nothing's happening. Kind of get to it, and then when it actually gets to the juicy bit, it's like speeds by. So, but I mean, you know, I think it's to take that on, to be the actual creative behind that. You know, I mean, it's such a huge project. I can't even imagine. You know, and then the pressure of just the world on them. You know,
can't imagine. Going back to I See You Again, the concept of phrogging, this is the first time I even knew it existed. Were you the same, or?
Yeah. When someone first mentioned it, I thought it was something much stranger. I was sort of relieved that it was that. It was, and then I sort of, you know, looked it up and Googled it, and there were videos on YouTube. I don't know if they're still up, but, you know, of people apparently phrogging. I sort of don't quite buy the videos, but you never know. And then
probably fake.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd heard stories of, you know, someone who kept noticing their food was going missing for months and then realized that their ex-boyfriend was living in their house. Or like, you know, there's a famous one of a homeless guy who's been living in the attic for, you know, 6 months. And, you know, things like that, but not like almost as a sport, you know, in this way. So, but I think for Devon, that's where he heard about phrogging, and that was the first spark, you know, and then he sort of pieced this all together from that.
Yeah, it makes it quite chilling. Adam, we wanted to ask you, what was your experience like at South by Southwest when this film kind of had its premiere there last year? It must have been pretty surreal having the red carpet treatment alongside Helen and John there.
Yeah, it was, you know, it was amazing. It was, you know, iBoy, because it was Netflix, just sort of landed on Netflix. It's a sort of strange experience. You spend, I mean, it was almost 5 years, I think, by that point. And then it's just on Netflix, you know, and it's like, oh God, that's it, you know. And actually, like, in a way, it's great because the reaction's so sudden, you know, so quick. It's not, you know, and you can see people almost in real time watching it and get that feedback. But it's also like, oh, that's, you know, moving on then. So it was really nice to get to experience like the first screening of it, you know, sitting with an audience, getting their reactions, and really like exciting, waiting for that flip halfway through, just to sort of feel it in the room, you know. Also terrifying, obviously, because you don't know if everyone's just going to hate it. But it was great, you know, and I mean, it's incredible. I've never been to Austin, which is just the most amazing city, and like everyone was just so passionate about going to see films and music, and the film went down really well. So it was great. I mean, I was in such a high, like an unbelievable high, you know, and then we did a sort of little Q&A afterwards, and you know, and all the cast were really happy. And then the first 2 reviews came in, and they were really bad.
Oh.
They were really, yeah. And I remember just like getting back to the hotel room and just sitting there going, oh shit, like, and you don't know if like that's it then. Is everybody you're gonna just get uniformly bad reviews? Oh no, that's it. Oh my God, like all of this, I really thought maybe we had something quite special, and actually everyone's gonna hate it. And then, you know, some good ones came in, and it's like, okay, fine, you know, as long as it balances out, you know. And it seems like more people like it than don't. I mean, I think it was always going to be a film that frustrated some audience members, you know, because it's, you know, people who are going hoping it's a horror film and then are slightly disappointed by that, or, you know, but on the whole, it seems to have gone down pretty well.
Yeah, for sure. It's hardly a conventional movie, and I love how that perspective shifts and the focus changes from each character. And as you mentioned, Adam, we kind of see that same day. There's some different shots and angles and framing. It must have been really difficult to kind of get that balance right while making an engaging experience for audiences. So, can you take us through your vision and your process there?
Yeah, I mean, I actually found it, hugely satisfying figuring out how to do that puzzle in a way, that sort of jigsaw, and what to show, and how to create a certain mood, and certain shots of like Jackie just coming home, and how to make her, her driving into her garage, getting her shopping, putting it in the fridge. How do you make that weird and frightening? Sort of, and how do you make that feel like somebody's watching her? And so that was really, really nice. And there were lots of little details in the script, but lots of things we had to change because the script was so specific that unless we built the house, we were never going to be able to do how it outlined things. It's really specific in that the bathroom was next to the guest room, and that's where they were staying, and they could, and we found it a really great house, and none of that worked. So suddenly it's like, okay, we need to rethink loads of these little details. So that was sort of part of the challenge of it, really. The worry I had is that because it's trying to play like a conventional supernatural horror film for the first sort of half an hour or so, and especially the first kind of 20 minutes, really, like, it's very sort of slowly paced and slow burn and creepy, and it's using certain cliches, sort of purposefully, and they're not the most exciting horror moments. It's a TV turning on, or it's a hamster running down a hallway. So you just want the audience to hold on, because that it ramps up, and when it ramps up, it doesn't kind of stop. But it was trying to make that first part engaging. At the same time, you don't really get to know these characters, because you can't get to know them truthfully. You're always going to feel a little distant from them. So it's just trying to balance all these things out, really.
Yeah, one scene I really like was, I think it was Jackie, Helen Hunt's character. She looks under the bed, or was it Connor? And you see this monkey mask, and that appears on the Jackie. Yeah, it appears on the poster as well. It's so creepy. Did you get to keep this monkey mask?
Yeah, I did. It's sort of supposed to be a frog, even though I
frog.
Sort of looks like a monkey.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's fine. It's fine. It has got a monkey, because I didn't want it to be like it was written as an emoji frog mask, and then sort of started to try and figure out how can it be weird and frightening, but also something that you'd actually buy in a market. So I didn't get to keep it, and then about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, I got one in the post, and the producer had got me one, which was very kind of him, so I can freak my kids out. But yeah, that's one of those moments when you actually break it down. You think, Alec's been lying there with the mask on for like 6 hours. I mean, Connor's gone to bed. He's lying there, whatever, like for hours and hours, and this guy's underneath him the whole time.
It's so unsettling.
Yeah.
What was it like to work with Helen Hunt? Did she bring the Oscar to set at any time?
Unfortunately not. I asked every day. It was amazing. She's sort of so committed, and we met a lot beforehand, because I was living in LA, as I said, before we went over to Ohio. So, we'd meet up in cafes and things, and we'd just sit and talk through it and talk through every line, and everything sort of not only had to make sense to her, and to her character, but had to evolve. Like, there'd be certain things in the script, and we'd look at it and we'd be like, isn't this sort of the same beat that you've already had 10 minutes before? How can this be different? The other thing I said to her, which she didn't see in the script, and she didn't believe it could happen, and who knows if it does, but I said to her, I really want at some point the audience to suspect you're the one, that you're the crazy person, you're the one abducting, so can we, have certain moments where the suspicion falls on you, certain little details, certain things we can do. So we looked at that, and there were little things that we did on, on set that we hoped would sort of, just for a moment, I had this whole sort of concept that maybe you could start to theorize, oh, it's like a Jekyll and Hyde, and she's sort of self-medicating and drinking a lot, and she's sort of flipping personalities, and like in the middle of the night, she's wandering around the house, ripping bedclothes clothes off and freaking out her son, and then she wakes up next morning and can't even remember it, like that's it. That it could be that the film, and I was hoping that at least some audience members they'd be like, I know what this is. It's her. She's crazy, So like to try and do that, but also to make it sort of her character truthful, because she's ultimately like, even though you don't really see it, you don't get it till the end. Like she's the heart of it, and she's been living with this man, and subconsciously knows what he is, and so is driven to such despair that she's medicating, she's drinking, she has an affair with literally the polar opposite of him, like this cuddly teddy bear of a man,
I noticed that.
She's doing anything to, but and it's buried so deep, so she's just got this sort of growing trauma in her, so anyway, long answer to say it was a great experience working with her.
No, that's awesome, Adam. I love some of these points here that you've raised about how she is the heart, and it's less the supernatural monster and more that monster in the closet and the skeletons that live inside the closet that could be going on in any home, and especially in a wealthy home. And we see the Phroggers come in with Alec and Mindy, and they kind of play it up like, look at how these wealthy people live. They have all this money, and this is the stuff they choose to buy. I feel like with Jackie's character, and we want to hear your take on what went into the production, the score and the soundscape that is in this film just adds so much dread, and everything seems so grim. And at times it kind of feels like the music's closing in on the movie. What went into the production, and how did that unfold to get this awesome music?
Well, in terms of the, of getting Will, I mean, that came in late in the process. As in, like, we're already pretty far through the edit when we started to try and get someone on board, and we did it. We went out to a few composers, and we got some demos, and he did one. And just to say how good he is, like the demo he did, I gave him the scene where she drives past the search party, and then it goes into the woods, and they're burying. And so he did this kind of 6-minute sequence. And what's in the final film is pretty much what he did in the demo. It was just so great. So, and he's got a very particular style. He takes, he'd send me things and say, this is a piece of bamboo that I whacked into my clothes hanger or something, listen to this. And then I'd listen to it and be like, that's amazing, So he'd come up with all these incredible sounds, and then we try and form them into sort of really subtle little melodies that could be repeated and that had connotations, of the past, or there'd be, her, Jackie's theme. But really it was about creating this sense of utter sort of heavy foreboding over the film, this real sense of unease and this sort of monster among us, in a way that the score is the monster, for a lot of it, like, because you don't see anything, especially at the beginning when you're just creeping around. It's the score that's sort of the sound of this being that we don't know what it is, and then obviously we find out that the being is is him.
It's tense. It's really cool. It's as you said, Adam, it kind of it is the start of the film, and by the end it's the score kind of becomes the monster there. So you're living in LA at the moment again, as you said, and you're here in lockdown, and we're in lockdown as well in Melbourne, in Victoria and Australia. I want to ask, other than catching up for coffee with Helen Hunt, which sounds pretty awesome, what's been some of your highlights living in around Tinseltown?
I mean, it's been really strange this time, because I came here because the film I'm doing, Night Teeth, is set here. So, I landed and was scouting locations, and then I went off to New Orleans for 4 months, and then landed back in LA, and have been basically in the house since then. So it's been a sort of strange experience. I mean, the first time I came out here, it was obviously just the joy of like going to meet all these producers and executives in, like, walking into Paramount Studios, walking into Warner Brothers, like all the stuff that like you sort of dream about. It's just so incredible. So yeah, there's that sort of fantasy, and it is a little bit of a fantasy because a lot of you're meeting about, like you're just meeting and you come out of there going, oh my god, like that's it, they love me, my career's made, like
Yeah, I'm done. This is it.
and then not much happens. Probably sometimes it does, but on the whole it doesn't, just because that's the way it goes. But yeah, experiencing that, especially when coming into the industry in the UK, and it's much smaller, and it hasn't got the sort of that sense of sort of glamour, in the way that it does here. So yeah, that's been great. But actually looking at shooting here and really looking at the city in that way has been really fascinating, because it's such a incredible place and it's so diverse, and it's like lots of little cities, and they're all so different, and the people are different, and the fashion and music is different depending on where you are, even if it's 20 minutes apart.
Oh, for sure, 100%. We wanted to ask Adam, you bring up there how it's a bit of a different flavor, and you must have learned a lot across your career now, having made 4 feature films. What's some advice you might have for young aspiring filmmakers out there who are listening to our show, the We Watch This Movie podcast, or maybe even some advice for yourself at 25?
Yeah, I get asked this sometimes. I mean, the first thing I say, which is sort of not supposed to be depressing, but I think it's useful to say, is like, make sure that it's what you absolutely want to do and have to do. Like, it's just, You've got this desperation to do it, because I think that, there are obviously filmmakers that you see who just smash it early, and just like they come at their first movie, Animal Kingdom, for example, or La Haine or Donnie Darko or whatever, and you're just like, wow, holy shit, that's just like,
how did you do this?
God. Yeah. But on the whole, most, it's much more of a sort of struggle, and you have to sacrifice certain things in your life that your friends around you won't be sacrificing because they've got jobs and holiday pay. Holiday pay is such a foreign idea. You get paid for being on holiday. So I think first of all, like, you've got to, be sure that that's what you want to do. And not that you want to do, because being involved in film, being in the camera department, or an editor, I mean, there's so many incredible roles, and I think that certainly for me, like, I always thought as a teenager, as the director, you want to be the director, and in a way, like, it is your vision and you're the center of it in certain respects, so it is an amazing job. But as being a camera operator, it's just incredible. I look at the camera operator sometimes with such envy, that they are just focusing on this shot, and it's great, and they haven't got all the other stuff to deal with, or so I think it's really learning about all the different roles that come together, and then it's it's sort of obvious, but it's making stuff, and it's not sort of waiting around, it's just sort of trying to find ways of making short films, of learning the craft, of if you can, making a low budget feature film. Obviously you have a lot of power if you write, or if a writer, who writes you a script, and that script is really good, then you're in a great position. If you're waiting around for someone to send you a script, that can be really tough and long. So I think it's just being as proactive as possible. And not being disheartened if your first film isn't, Badlands or Reservoir Dogs, because most people's aren't. And I actually feel like it's almost unfair, this new perspective that, like, it's supposed to be, because back in the day, you'd start and you'd work on B movies, you'd work for Roger Corman or something, and you'd make a load of films, and when you were sort of good enough, then you'd make something worthy, But before then, it was training, and I think it's incredibly difficult now if you're supposed to make a first film, and it's like, oh, was that great? If not, that's your career done, and it's like, that surely shouldn't be how it is. So I think if you, don't put all your expectations on your first film necessarily, if it because you're learning, so just keep going, keep fighting the fight.
Yeah, I love it. There's something to be said there about being consistent, and I love the point you make about Roger Corman. I'm pretty sure Stanley Kubrick might have made a Corman movie, and didn't James Cameron make like a Piranha sequel 2. Or something?
Yeah, Piranha 2, and I mean, Scorsese made 2 films before Mean Streets, and I think Tarantino made like 3/4 of the film that fell apart before he made Reservoir Dogs. Something like that.
I think was that My Best Friend's Birthday? It was like a short film or something.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But even like I remember watching Saulnier's, Blue Ruin. God, that's fucking amazing. What a great first film. And then you look and it's like, oh, he'd already made one or two films before then. Yeah, I mean they might be great as well. I'm not sure. I haven't seen them yet. But you just that idea of like you just work. You don't need to put everything on that. I think take that pressure off yourself. Because I had that pressure on me, and then I can be totally honest now because I'm on my fourth film. My first film is no masterpiece. Not that I don't want anyone to watch it, but it was at a time where I got sent the script, and it was actually my agent said to me, "Are you in a position, Adam, to be turning everything down?" Which was a really nice way of saying, "What the fuck are you doing?" Take something. So I sort of got the script, and I thought, okay, well, I tried to rework it into something that I felt like could really work. And there are things in it I'm really proud of, and South Korean influence and all that, trying to make it sort of mad and funny and colourful.
Yes.
But as a whole, it doesn't necessarily fully work, or it's not, amazingly fresh, or So I didn't, I always wanted to be Tarantino or make Hard Eight or whatever. And
who doesn't?
My first film, and my first film wasn't that, and it was received okay. Universal took it and distributed it, so that was really cool. But the reviews are sort of mixed, But you just got to go, okay, well, on to the next one, and I'll get better, and then hopefully, hopefully you make films that really connect with an audience, So.
Speaking of directors, me and Jackson have a long-going debate on this podcast: who's better, Nolan or Lynch? Where are you on that side of the fence?
Wow, indeed.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Although it's tough, I prefer Lynch. Like as a, I mean, I think Lynch has had such a
Jackson.
profound. Yeah, he's had a profound impact on cinema. I mean, so has Nolan. I mean, they're so different. Like they're both incredible, and Chris Nolan probably has the most enviable career in Hollywood, right? Like,
sure.
I mean, that only comes because of his amazing skills. It's not like we're like, if I could be Nolan. Like he's so specific, and that he can make films that personal and smart on like the biggest canvas you can is incredible, and I will like rush to see his films, like everyone, and the fact that like all it is it's his film and that's enough. It's not like, oh, you need some huge star in it, or it's just like it's a Chris Nolan film, and that in itself guarantees that it's going to be interesting and incredibly well done cinematic. I think that is amazing. But Lynch is like the effect that his films and TV has had on me is like profound, in a different way, So if I had to pick, I would go with him.
Well, we'll let you go in a second, Adam. We just want to ask you quickly. We ask everyone this: what have you been watching lately, and what would you recommend to our listeners to check out in the last few months?
God, I mean, what makes that so hard is just been watching so much because it's lockdown. I watched Midnight Run the other day. The De Niro film from the 80s, which is just perfect. It was like a joy to watch it. I know that's going back. I just started Watchmen. I know I'm a little late to it, but that's great. I thought Devs was amazing. Just incredible TV series. I mean, it's almost like because there's been too much. I've been trying to watch a lot of sort of easy stuff. I think because the world is so
take the weight off.
Yeah, because it's so sort of horrendous out there, and there's been something about watching a lot of popcorn stuff. That's been. I watched Lord of the Rings again, which was really satisfying to escape into that world for 12 hours. I'm going to come off this and be like, that's what I've been watching, and I love it. I can't think right now, but yeah. Devs would be my recommendation that I can think of right now of something new that's come out that I thought was incredible.
So when can we see Night Teeth? When are we? Because I'm really looking forward to it. When is that scheduled?
Thank you.
Next year?
Well, we need to finish it. So we're supposed to be shooting in mid-August. That's been pushed because the situation here isn't good, obviously. So hopefully we'll finish the shoot by around October. So the film will be completely done by spring next year, early summer. So I imagine it's not going to be. It's a shame because it was going to be They were even talk about really trying to push it to release it at the end of this year. And then obviously there's been such a delay now. So it'll probably be like, autumn next year. It's very different to ICU. It's like really fun and loud and colorful, and just like, I just sort of let loose completely and gone a bit nuts with it.
Awesome. We can't wait to see
Sounds fantastic. It's going to be our kind of movie.
I hope so.
We'll have to get you back on when it releases next year.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Thanks for joining us, Adam. Really appreciate your time. Stay safe and healthy, and we will talk to you soon, mate.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. Take it easy.
So yeah, that was a blistering talk with Adam.
That was a lot of fun.
Really appreciate him taking the time. 45 minutes with him. Just, really, really great insights on not just I See You, but his other films and his processes and what he's been working. It's just fascinating to us, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. We can't wait to get a look at Night Teeth as well. That sounds like a really cool genre picture.
It sounds like it's up your alley. Sounds like it's really up your alley. A bit more fun and vibrant.
Yeah, give me a whole bunch of blood, throw it at the screen, give me some dismemberment, body parts. I will be one happy camper.
Evil Dead 2, anyone?
Hey! Have you watched that one yet? Didn't we mention that in episode 1 or 2?
No, I haven't. I need to. I need to.
God, this guy loves to criticize me for not watching enough movies, but he still hasn't watched it. God, that should be the real challenge. Move over Wes and Joel.
So this is a sleeper hit, I think, Jackson. The I See You. I really think not enough people saw this, talked about it. I'm urging people I know to check this one out, even if you don't like. I've had people that said, "Damn, what are you doing? This wasn't my sort of film."
No, it's dark and it's hard. Yeah. No one's likable. There's not one character in this. Even when you're thinking on it in retrospect, not one character in this is truly likable. Everyone's a bit gross.
Libby Barra, I think her name is, as Mindy, the girl Frogger.
But she's a bit too vulnerable. She doesn't get much to do, and by the end of it, she's just there to be a toy to be played with by not only Alec but Greg as well. Like, it gets gross, and it's kind of the point. It's a smart script, but it's probably not as smart as it thinks it is.
I found him quite something unsettling about Owen Teague, Alec.
Yes.
Something unsettling about this guy. I've seen him in other films before. I think he's an up-and-comer. There's something very off about him. Sorry, if you listen to this podcast, man, you're a great actor, because there's something.
And Owen, we'll have you on.
His presence. Yeah, we'll have you on. The presence of him on screen there's something magical about it. I really enjoy the films and TV shows that this guy's in.
Yeah, he is very chilling. In fact, he was actually on a Black Mirror episode. So
that's right.
There you go.
Yes.
So if you want to see something a bit frightening with him, you want to check that out. Sleeper hit, I See You, for sure. You mentioned in our interview with Adam, we asked him about South by Southwest, and that was last year in 2019. We're not going to see a South by Southwest here in 2020, unfortunately. But Dan, here's some of the movies that I See You was released alongside. The Beach Bum, written and directed by Harmony Korine.
Terrible. I've seen it. Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, have you watched that as a part of your reconnaissance?
Oh, not good. Matthew, what were you thinking, mate? Interstellar to Beach Bum. Far out.
Moving on. Good Boys, Long Shot, Pet Cemetery, and I've got two more. Stuber, which was a work in progress at the time, and finally, Us.
Oh, wow, that's a pretty good lineup to be a part of.
That was a pretty good lineup.
Yeah.
By the way, there were also some games that were featured at South by Southwest, and a little game, indie game you might have heard of, Dan. God of War took out their top award.
Wow, there you go. I didn't know they do games. Rattling off that list there, Us, Good Boy. I've seen most of them. Out of those, I'd say Us was number one for me. Just something.
You know how many of those I've seen?
0.
Moving on to the next segment.
This is a movie reviewer, guys. Apparently he's a movie reviewer, but if you go to his Instagram page, his last review was from, 2016?
I think it was about 2012 when I first made the profile. Thank you very much.
Come on, you need to lift your game, Jack. You've watched 10 movies in July to my 24. I mean,
Oh,
come on.
Dan Allen movies, you're absolutely right. I'll lift my game when you lift your 8 out of 10 for Pulp Fiction. Thank you very much.
Moving on. No, I found it fascinating, his story about working with the small budgets and how the days went from 24 to 20, and it really made sense on how if he was given more resources, more time, more money for this, he really could have come up with done a lot more. And it is a little bit of a shame, but he needs to prove himself, and he has now. And now he's got more backing by Netflix with Night Teeth coming out next year. So I'm really looking forward to what he does next. I told him because I like the work that he's done so far, and although I haven't seen iBoy, you haven't either.
I haven't seen it either. But Dan, it sounds like you could be comparing Adam to a bit of what we saw in Natalie Erica James when we covered Relic. And being another low-budget horror takes place in one location involving a family, a lot of what happens in this movie is kind of echoed there too. Both of them very fresh takes on old hat. Might seem cliched to begin with. We kind of know where this story is going, how it's going to unfold, but awesome atmosphere on display here in I See You, as well as a really cool score. It kind of feels like the score's closing in on the characters and it's closing in on us and the viewer. And Adam made a great point as well when he mentioned that the script and the story itself, the movie kind of is a comment on filmmaking and how you can pull apart a plot, and it's all about not what happens, but how you present and how you view what happens. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the score, because I was in the interview, because that was the next question I had for him. As you know, I'm a big sound guy, so that was one thing that really elevated the film again, just the unsettling nature of it. But Jackson, I want to ask you, what was your reaction 40 minutes in when we go from that horror and we switch genres? What was your reaction?
The hard cut that we have to watching the frogging going on through the video camera, it catches you off guard a bit, and you're thinking, oh, all right, we're going to see what's going to happen here. Okay, they seem to be stalking this family, but not at all. In fact, it seems to start off far more innocent than it would lead to, and it was gripping because it was like peeking behind the curtain, watching a movie monster or a serial killer at work. Except it was far more innocent than that. At least that's what we first think. Maybe going back on a rewatch would be a little bit different. That element of voyeurism, I love it because it's something that you don't see too much in cinema. And isn't that what movies kind of are? It's like watching someone else's life. We're looking through the eyes of someone else, even through a different lens, you might say. And Dan, you might not have seen it yet, but that's another important element taken from, you wouldn't believe it, a David Lynch movie. That's straight from Blue Velvet.
That's on the top of my watch list, by the way, Jackson. I might have to watch that one without you.
You best fucking believe it, because you heard it here first, people. Future interviews, we are going to be hosting Chris Nolan or David Lynch. And right now, Marshall on Film, 1 point to 0. Thank you very much.
Oh, I can't believe it. And I love how he said to me after, Dan, you're going to get smashed in this game. They're all going to pick Lynch. You're probably right. But I'm holding out for that one guy to go no. It's only early days. It's 01. So we'll if there's any way to get Nolan interview, Dan's going to do it, eh?
Trust.
The switch for me was, like you said, very gripping. I couldn't turn away. At the first 30 minutes, yes, you could pick up your phone, and
I was ready to switch it off.
Yeah, because it's not pulling you in as much. But once that handheld and you're peeling back the layers and you're seeing what happens, because the last shot we see is the dad, Greg, about to hit one of the phroggers, right? That's one of the last scenes before that. So we see the build up to that, and we find out about what he's been doing. The twist there, I did not see it coming because of one specific element. They were very smart. So,
what do you mean they were very smart? Please elaborate.
When they cut to the dad, Greg, it makes you feel like he can't be in the house. He couldn't have killed the estranged lover of Helen Hunt's character.
Yeah, of Jackie.
Jackie. He couldn't have been there because he was already at the crime scene. The way they cut that together,
Yeah, he
it
was the
looked
lead
like
detective
he was,
on a closed case.
and it looked
right?
like he was there. So he could, like, in the time frame, he couldn't be at the house. But then when we get the second viewing, there's time because the detective, the other policeman, is waiting out the front for him, kills him, and then goes out. I just think it was really well done. That sort of stuff I absolutely love. So
it was very clever, and it was kind of refreshing to see these logic points, everything laid out so perfectly, and it was seamless to a point where it all kind of matched up. There are some leaps in logic, and what happens between some of the characters. Like, do we really need Alec pissing on Greg Harper? Okay, he ruined your life.
That was a bit.
It's audience members have to watch that stuff.
That was ridiculous.
And and do we have to watch Alec dropping the mug? Oh, sorry, dropping his mug he was using as an ashtray on Jackie's ex-lover? Like, it's a bit cold and a bit dark, and I guess that's where the movie wants to go. But
you know what? At first, I'm thinking, why is he doing this? But then you realise why he's doing this from the final scene, Jackson.
Well, he was traumatized, and we find out as well that John Tenney's character, he was traumatized. His final words before he's shot by Alec is, "Please don't. Something happened when I was a child." I get where the screenwriter's kind of going there, but it's a little bit too much. We're laying this stuff on really thick.
I thought it was brilliant. It was a closer for me that it needed another last twist to get you over the line and think, wow, yeah, that was worth my time. So I really enjoyed that.
You do love your twists.
I do. I love a good twist. But the section where the two kids are in that caravan, my God, that was when it got to its darkest.
That was a haunting sequence.
Yeah, that was really
Did you have
creepy.
flashbacks to Seven?
Oh, worse than that. I had flashbacks to Human Centipede. You never want that.
Poor Mindy. Like I said, she was just getting used and abused by that
shocking,
point.
Isn't it? Just the treacherous things that this dad was doing. Greg, my God, what an asshole.
Yeah, this is a pretty heavy plot, and as you mentioned, mate, it's going to make for some interesting Friday night viewing.
Now, you mentioned that we'd seen frogging before in Parasite, which I didn't.
Yes.
I didn't put the two and two together there. Glad you said that, but they never mentioned the word frogging. That's why. Had you ever seen any other films or seen this before besides Parasite?
Oh, I can't think of another movie that explains it as explicitly. I'm sure there's many films out there, and listeners, please feel free to DM us, send it in. Have you seen a movie where we've got someone else hiding in their home, doing things throughout the day? I can't think of the name, but I know I've seen movies and TV shows where people will live at, like abandoned houses and pretend to be the family that lives there, even though they're not.
Yeah.
They're actually hiding within the home and coming out at night to move things and pardon my French here, but fuck with the family. That's real spooky shit. And don't we all kind of have that feeling at night? You wake up in the morning and you go, hey, wasn't there a mug or something here? Why is this missing? It's freaky stuff. I don't know how well I'm going to sleep. Hope you're going to sleep okay, mate.
Well, actually, Invisible Man.
Hey,
is that
it
one?
felt a bit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you're watching, is this going to move in that shot and when's this going to jump out at us? Kind of felt like that, right?
Yeah, I also love the gimmick of I called it a monkey mask in the interview. He quickly corrected me. And said it's a frog mask. Oh, what an idiot. But it looked like tell me, do you guys think it's a monkey or a frog? I still think he's wrong. I reckon it's a monkey, but I guess he is the director of the film, so I can't really argue with him, can I? You think it's a frog? Okay, well...
It was a frog, mate, and you know what? You best believe
the frog
emoji is in the episode title, listeners.
After this, I want you to put that poster on our Instagram story, and I want you to ask one simple question to our followers. Frog or monkey? I guarantee more monkeys.
At Dan Allen Movies, you know it's happening.
Look, again, it's a low budget film, so it gets a little bit of leeway from me. I know I gave Relic an 8 out of 10 back in the day. I have turned that back to a 7 now after a rewatch.
Oh!
I have turned that back to a 7 just because I think... Yeah, well, I mean, we can go into this in another time, but I thought it was lacking a few things on a rewatch, and maybe I was in a great mood when watching that. I don't know, but
Hey, these are all subjective.
Yeah,
Your opinion's going to change whether you watch it whether you watch it today, tomorrow, a year, a decade. It's okay, listeners. These things will change. Think back to many popular directors' work, like Stanley Kubrick. Many of his films, when they came out, had mixed responses. Now they're all classic.
I give Pulp Fiction an 8, and I nearly got destroyed for saying that on my
How dare
Instagram.
you.
8's a great
get destroyed
movie.
again here.
8's an awesome movie, guys. Is that 8 not enough? You know, maybe on a rewatch I will give it that 9 or that 10 that you're looking for, but maybe I won't. Maybe it's just an 8, you know. It's the same for Jackson and me. We gave Inception a 9. I had a lot of people who messaged me saying, where's the 10? I'm like, guys, it's a 9 out of 10. That's a pretty good review. So just settle down. But you know, people are passionate about their favourite films. If people don't give Dark Knight a 10, I'm probably the same. So yeah, anyway, in terms of the ratings, Jackson, you want to walk us through?
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, it's about time for Jackson's segment.
Jackson's ratings. IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd. Oh, that was beautiful. That was spot on. That was like the live recording.
Listeners, Dan said it. It's been a sleeper hit. We want you to recommend it because we want you to watch more good movies. We'll go into our final ratings in just a moment, so bear in mind that some of these are still early days, okay? IMDb has ICU pegged at a 6.8 out of 10 from almost 18,000 user ratings, which is quite strong. And when you jump here on the website, you'll see a lot of 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10. That's where that score comes from, of course. But those that liked the film had good things to say about it. We head on over here to Rotten Tomatoes. Rotten Tomatoes, 76% of critics who have submitted reviews for the film have given it a fresh rating. So that's 29 good reviews for ICU. It's an average score of 6.26 out of 10. The audience score, 73%. That's pretty high, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah. Do you want to? Is that certified fresh yet or not?
It's not quite certified fresh. You know what is? Relic. Please go check out our interview with Natalie Erica James, available now on the YouTube. So congrats to Natalie. Listeners, we sometimes mention the word certified fresh, so I just want to kind of lay out here what it means. So Rotten Tomatoes will dish out the old certified fresh sticker for a film that has a steady tomato meter of 75% or higher after 80 reviews for movies in wide release. A more independent feature in limited theaters that can have 40 reviews, and if it's a TV show, well, they'll give about 20, as it's mainly a movie-orientated website. And of those 80 or 40 or 20 reviews, it's got to have at least 5 reviews from top critics. So basically, it's got to be widely seen. They'll dish out that certified fresh sticker, and that's how we know we've got a banger of a picture on our hands.
Yeah.
Back to it, the audience score at 73%, the average rating from 431 ratings on Rotten Tomatoes, 3.68 out of 5. So again, quite strong. Metacritic here. Metacritic have this, 65 from 8 critic reviews and 7.5 user score. And finally, the show, the segment, the mention that you've all been waiting for. Shout out to them once again. Maybe for the last time if we don't get that sponsorship deal. Letterboxd, 3.3 out of 5 from nearly 9.5 users having logged it. And it's got over 2,000 3.5 star ratings.
9.5 users or 9,500?
9.5 use it. That is where the Curb Your Enthusiasm cue will play.
That's a great.
Because you literally
That is great.
got a zinger, you bastard.
Pretty much most people are sitting around the 7, and that leads into my review and my rating, which is a 7 out of 10. Jackson, I thought it was a
Wow.
good time. There's not much else that hasn't been said. I think you guys should definitely check this one out. If you made it this far, you've probably already seen it. So 7 out of 10.
And you would have heard Adam, the director, spoiling it as well. So if you haven't watched it yet, I'm so sorry.
I know. But yeah, no, 7. I thought it was quite strong.
Dan, my final rating is going to be 6 out of 10 Who Steals Silverware.
There you go.
Now, a 6 out of 10, listeners, That might sound quite low. That might sound like an average rating or it didn't quite hit high. For me, a 6 out of 10, that's 3 out of 5 stars. That is a good movie. Some of my favorite films, the most rewatchable films out there, will only come in at a 6 out of 10. Maybe on a rewatch, this might get a little bit higher. I'm sure it's got some rewarding elements now where we understand where some of the foreshadowing is going and that first 40 minutes won't be as plotting and testing. Again, between the two of us, that comes in at a 13 out of 20. What does that mean out of 5? Hey, that means a 3 out of 5.
Beautiful. That is our review for I See You. Why don't we take a moment now, Jackson, to thank our sponsors.
Dan, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity here to talk about our sensational sponsors for today. And first up, our favourites, ExpressVPN. Listeners, we want you to check out expressvpn.com/we-watch-this for 3 months free on your 12-month subscription. If you want to be researching frogging and setting up your own little homeless getaway by hiding in someone's boutique home, you want to be keeping your online activity from being traced, if you want to choose an interesting location somewhere in the American Midwest, you want to be doing it across 94 different countries and keeping your real location hidden from prying eyes, you want to use expressvpn.com/we-watch-this. Access any content, no matter your location, no matter the attic you're hiding in, no matter the basement you might be dead in. Say goodbye to block services and websites. For example, if you want to watch this on an Australian Netflix account, you want to watch I See You, that is, you could create your account, no matter your location around the world, using ExpressVPN. It's features like this that make ExpressVPN super popular and super simple to use. Again, one last time, our faithful listeners, it's expressvpn.com/we-watched-this.
And make sure you check out the PlayStation 5 Central podcast hosted by yours truly, Anna Vikarth. We go into the latest and greatest in gaming, in particular the PlayStation 5, all the news, the updates, and everything about the console with its upcoming release at the end of the year. So make sure you check out PS5 Central Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere you can find a good podcast. ExpressVPN and PS5 Central Podcast. Jackson, before we wrap up the show today, we have a little challenge to do. Now, I'm going to give you So, Jackson, I'm going to give you a Wes Craven film, and you're going to give me a Joel Schumacher film. Now, I've got some Joel films that I do want to watch. You know, just think of my favorite, movie and a character within that movie. You see where I'm going here? You know, you could...
Dan, I'm not watching Batman and Robin or Batman Forever.
No,
nice try.
No.
You really tried.
Hold on,
You
no.
really tried.
What are you doing? I'm getting a Joel movie. You've stuffed this up completely. I'm giving you a Wes Craven film. I'm the one getting a Joel film.
All right, just lay it on me here, buddy.
The Wes Craven film I want you to take a look at is the original 1977, The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. You're going back, way back, and you're going to take a look at an absolute classic who he was also an editor on and writer.
Oh, that's going to be very interesting. You can't get a much more auteur take on horror than that, I suppose. Michael Berryman right there on the poster. That's going to be a crazy watch. Can't wait to get lost with some cannibals in the desert. Alrighty.
Now, before you give me my Joel Schumacher film, let me just... ease you into this by saying I'm a massive fan of The Dark Knight, and there's a character in that film, that's a really great character. I'm hoping, you get where I'm going with this. So lay it on me, Jackson. I'm ready. 1995.
At about 4 years, Dan Allen movies, you're going to be watching 8mm starring Nicolas Cage.
No! Oh, hold on. 8mm.
8mm. This features a script by Andrew Kevin Walker, who was not only a famous
Joaquin
scriptwriter,
Phoenix,
but a famous script doctor back in the 90s. Get ready
the Joker,
for
Joaquin
one hell of a ride.
Yes. Is this the prequel?
Well,
that's a yes.
You said I went easy on you last time with Swingers.
Oh, no.
This time you might say I'm swinging quite big.
Oh, no. Jackson, are you serious?
It's got Peter Stormare.
It's 123
so enjoy.
minutes. Oh, no. Oh, no. All right.
Listeners, the game is afoot. I've been challenged to watch The Hills Have Eyes. Dan has been challenged to watch 8mm. This has been another rockin' episode of the We Watch This Movie podcast. What more have you got to say, buddy?
Guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you follow me and not Jackson. You follow me at Dan Ellen Movies on Instagram. That is it.
Well, listeners, you might not be following me at Marshall on Film followed by an underscore, but we absolutely implore you to check out the We Watch This Movie podcast at We Watch This Podcast on all your favorite social media platforms. You will find us on Instagram, you'll find us on Facebook, you'll find us on Twitter, you'll find us on Letterboxd, you'll even find us on TikTok. While you're there, chuck us a follow, give us a subscribe, maybe even a 5-star review. We'd love to hear your thoughts in a DM. And with that, Dan, how about we close out the show?
With Jackson, we haven't even mentioned a film that we seem to mention every single week on this podcast.
Oh yeah, isn't something coming out August 26th?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ring a bell?